Hello everybody and welcome back to the Kingdom Hearts 3 playthrough. We made it to Port Royal. And yes.
Crabs? Why crabs?
We need to get crabs.
Never mind the particulars, mate. White crabs. Savvy?
Aye aye.
So yes, we now have to go and, well, basically go on the Great Crab Hunt. This just sounds wronger and wronger the further we go along. We need 300 white crabs. You can get them from various things. This just keeps getting worse. You can find them underwater, you can find them in barrels, in crates, littered everywhere. All sorts. We need 300 before we can leave Port Royal, and it's not that difficult to sort out. As long as you just explore everything, you'll be pretty good. And they're all looking at the moving barrel, which has got crabs in it. Because, yeah, somehow crabs have managed to get into barrels. Makes me sort of wonder whether, you know, someone had collected them and they were going to sell them. But, hey, these things happen. So, this part, you may have noticed its length. It's going to be quite exploratory. Because, obviously, the area is huge. But we're basically going to get through everything that's sort of left of the world. And then we are pretty much good to go for the sort of ending story-wise of the Caribbean in the next part. So that's why this part ends up being slightly longer than it would have perhaps been otherwise, because the next part is the end of the world. Because one of the things that you will notice about the way in which the Caribbean is structured is that it very quickly allows you to, once you've completed this section anyway, it allows you to go straight to sort of the end of the world.
Hey, what's making that cannon move?
But it doesn't make for the easiest of rides. Let's put it that way. I wouldn't recommend going as I do in this, because honestly, I really seriously ended up having trouble. Because of the damage that got caused by the delight that is the ship combat. But hey, we're going to be in Port Royal for a bit, so I might as well do something that I haven't done in a very long time. Largely because, you know, there's not been anything that I would say is particularly culturally important, I suppose. In most of the previous wars that we've been in, we've had sort of the film stuff. There was a bit of Norse going on in Arendelle, but that's been about it. But the Caribbean actually gives us a chance to sort of deal with some more real world stuff, because obviously the Caribbean is a real place, and Port Royal is actually a real place as well. So, obviously the Caribbean is part of the Americas, that consists of the Caribbean Sea, its islands, and some areas bordering both the Caribbean and the North Atlantic Ocean. Just southeast of the Gulf of Mexico, and the North American mainland, east of Central America, and north of South America, so it's right in the middle. And it's made up of about, well, more than 700 islands, islets, reefs, and cays. So there's a lot sort of going on in the area, and it is sort of, it's had quite a complex history over its time. Port Royal specifically is a village located at the end of the Palisados, which is the thin tumbolo of sand that serves as a natural protection for Kingston Harbour, Jamaica. At the mouth of the Kingston Harbour in southeastern Jamaica. So, yes. It was founded in 1518 by the Spanish and was once the largest city in the Caribbean, functioning as the centre of shipping and commerce in the Caribbean Sea by the latter half of the 17th century. Unfortunately, in 1692 it was destroyed by an earthquake, which had an accompanying tsunami, because, you know, just to make matters worse. It's also been attacked by severe hurricanes over the years, and another severe earthquake occurred in 1907. It was once home to privateers, who were encouraged to attack Habsburg Spain's vessels. Habsburg Spain is just the country of Spain over the 16th and 17th centuries, and privateers, not pirates, but privateers, a private person or ship that engages in maritime, which is ocean basically, warfare, under a commission of war. It empowers the commission of sort of being a privateer, and the whole commission of war empowers the person to carry on all forms of hostility permissible at sea by the usages of war, including attacking foreign vessels during wartime and taking them as prizes. Historically, captured ships were subject to condemnation and sale under prize law, with the proceeds divided between the privateer sponsors, ship owners, captains and crew. Percentage share usually went to the issue of the commission. Since robbery under arms was once common to seaborne trader, all merchant ships were already armed. So, yeah, there were a lot of privateers. And as a port city, it was notorious for its gaudy displays of wealth and loose morals. And it's where a lot of the English and Dutch sponsored privateers spent their treasure during the 17th century. When when kind of England and Denmark and stuff abandoned the practice of issuing letters of marque, which is sort of what the privateers used as their commissions, against the Spanish treasure fleets and possessions in the latter 16th century, many of those crews became pirates. So that is the basic origin of pirating. They still used the city as their main base during the 17th century, and pirates from around the world began to congregate at Port Royal, coming from waters as far away as Madagascar. After the 1692 disaster, Port Royal's commercial role steadily was taken over by the nearby town and later city of Kingston. There were plans, I think, developed in 1999 to redevelop the small fishing town as a heritage tourism destination to serve cruise ships, to capitalise on its unique heritage. Obviously, archaeological findings from pre-colonial and privateering years as the basis of possible attractions, but I don't think that anything has really happened on that front. I mean, ultimately, the latest bit of information, apparently, is citation needed on Wikipedia, is that Port Royal is known to it's known to post-medieval archaeologists as the city that sank. Robert Marks considering it the most important underwater archaeological site in the Western Hemisphere, having many artefacts and important treasures from indigenous peoples predating its 1518 founding, some from as far away as Guatemala, and also because there are several 17th and early 18th century pirate ships that sank within Kingston Harbour, just where Port Royal is, and they're being carefully harvested by various teams of archaeologists, and to sort of try and get to the bottom of history, really, because it's one of the things that I think a lot of people are always very fascinated in, particularly with ships that sank and all that jazz. It's the history of the whole thing. I mean, obviously there will be people going, ooh, treasure and how much money I could make from this. This would be delightful. But obviously for an archaeologist that's not exactly what they're there for. They're there for the history. And to see how the world used to be. I mean, to be fair, I do quite like that. It makes for a really fascinating look at where we've come with things, because I mean, if you don't look at sort of these types of elements, then honestly, how are you meant to see why certain things are the way they are? I mean, obviously the whole real-life pirates is why there is such a fascination these days with what they were like. And it's why, like, Pirates of the Caribbean, such a ridiculously popular franchise. Obviously less so now than it was. But when it initially came out, it was, like, proper blockbuster. And if you sort of don't look at that history, then you lose a lot of what we know today to be piratey behaviour. Also, you are going to be collecting a lot of crabs throughout the Caribbean, because one of the things with the Leviathan is, I believe I did mention that you can level it up. The way that you level it up is by collecting these white crabs. They are going to obviously fix the ship, but also they are what we use to level up. So there are so many crabs around the Caribbean. They are found in basically the same places that we've found them in Port Royal. They are in barrels, under crates. You just sort of destroy things, that sorts it out for you. You also can get them by destroying enemy ships. So, it's all good, but there we go. I think it's time to repair our ship with these things, thank God.
Aye, that's all of them. Now, to my final task. Be back in a trice.
Oh.
There, mates. Fit to sail any sea. Now, Sora, one final inquiry. Is there any particular reason you wanted this ship?
Yeah. To explore the seas. Free as the wind.
Good answer. You are a pirate. Captain Sora.
But Jack, why do you keep saying final? Like you're leaving.
Ah, it's because this me has run his course, mate.
This you?
Aye, the surrogate me that the goddess of the sea sent here to help you lot. Enemies to me. I may be duplicatable,
I
but
am
I'm
not
always
a big
incomparable.
fan of this plot
The
point.
sea. She smiles upon us, Sora. And let's leave it at that, shall we? For now, the real me has a crucial engagement. At Shipwreck Cove, where the pirate brethren will meet Beckett and his lot in battle to win back our freedom.
Then let us help.
No, it's for pirates to resolve, but not you, Sora. You're as free as the wind now, and far you'll go.
Oh.
So yeah, that Jack was made of crabs. Yay. At least let us use this to improve our ship, goddammit. Like, you pulled this on us, you're not letting us use your waste of time.
Jack was showing us the way.
Even if you did get cracked.
Jack, he said it was the pirates' battle to fight. But a fight for pirates is a fight for us! Come on, let's find the real Jack.
So yeah, as I said, I'm not a fan of that plot point. I think it just sort of is a bit of a waste of time. Like, so what was the point in us running around with Jack? Like, I suppose it's because they wanted him to have more of be a party member, but it's just like it's ridiculous. But I do like how they do a pretty damn good job of recreating the scene, right down to Davy Jones's bucket and series of buckets leading up to here. Like he had to test this out. It's wonderful, but this makes no sense at all from where we were.
And here they are.
Great,
Don't
thanks.
be bashful. Step up. Claim your reward.
Sparrow, your debt to me is still to be satisfied. 100 years in servitude aboard the Dutchman. As a start,
That debt was paid, mate.
you escaped.
I propose an exchange. Will leaves with us, and you can take Jack.
Done.
Undone.
Done.
Jack's one of the 9 pirate lords. You have no right.
King,
As you command, your nips.
Scurvy blackguard!
Easy there, mate. You wouldn't want to damage the leverage now, would you?
Now. Advise your brethren. You can fight, and all of you will die, or you cannot fight, in which case only most of you will die.
we will fight, and you will die.
Also, once again, Elizabeth's voice actor is pretty terrible. Just like that line read of "We will fight and you will die." It's just like, but the subtitles read, "We will fight and you will die." Emphasis on the "you." But yeah, that scene, as much as I like that it is recreated here, it doesn't make any sense because at no point did we see Will getting kidnapped
They got lots of cargo to sort out.
at all. Like, nothing of that ilk. Obviously, that's also the first time that we actually see Davy Jones, and that's such a weird introduction to the character, because he really doesn't seem threatening at all, because he is literally just standing in a bucket. It's a comic highlight of the films when that happens, because obviously you've got this really dark villainous character and then sort of he looks ridiculous standing in a bucket. But when that's your first introduction to the character in a narrative, it sort of goes against him being any sort of threat. That said, I think Robin Atkin Downes does a decent enough job of doing the voice acting. It doesn't really sound like Bill Nighy. I mean, to be fair, most people don't sound like Bill Nighy, and I don't think I've really ever seen any actors pull off a decent Bill Nighy impression. But it's passable, and I do think that Mick Wingett, who voices Cutler Beckett here, does do a pretty good job of replicating Tom Hollander's voice, who portrayed Cutler Beckett in the original films. As I do actually have a voice record here, Mick Wingett has... He's not been in, I think, anything huge, but... He does voice Slappy the Dummy in Goosebumps 2 Haunted Halloween. He has voiced Iron Man and Tony Stark in various TV series things for Marvel, and I think specifically Avengers Assemble from Season 4 onwards, and then he has also been the voice of Poe in various Kung Fu Panda media that is not, well, when they don't use Jack Black. He... yeah, I mean, I'd say that's probably the key things. He's also done, obviously, additional voices in various other things. I think, yeah, he does a pretty good job in that. And Robin Atkins does a pretty good job as well as Davy Jones. So really, my least... Well, it's Elizabeth is the worst voice actress in the game. It's abundantly clear. And I don't think that I can make that any more obvious and ram that point home any further, because oh boy. But I think the thing that frustrates me, I think it's in part my reaction to people's reaction to Arundel, is obviously a lot of people have a go and say that the reasons that they dislike Arundel are because Sora, Donald and Goofy have no impact on the story of the film and hardly interact with any of the characters, and there's plot holes and all that jazz, and yet they don't really seem to throw the same criticisms at the Caribbean, where I would see, I personally would say that those issues are a lot more egregious. Because obviously, while we've had Jack on the team for a bit there, he was Crab Jack, he wasn't Real Jack. Real Jack was off somewhere else, and actually sort of the the only thing that's really happened where we've had character interaction was the initial meeting, and even then that didn't really do anything to the plot. That was just Jack got rescued from Davy Jones's locker. We just happened to be there at the time, and then we got knocked the hell out, and then the rest of the plot of the film is happening elsewhere, but huge chunks of the narrative are missing, like how Will got kidnapped and why they're trading Jack for Will, and other stuff is going to occur as we sort of head into the ending bit. But the other thing is that it's a very lopsided world, in the sense that there was a lot going on sort of towards the start of it, and there's a lot that goes on at the end of it, but there's nothing really going on in any of the middle of it. I mean, I suppose in a way you could say that that is a little microcosm of Kingdom Hearts 3 in a nutshell. A lot happens at the beginning, the middle bit is sort of not necessarily of any major importance, and then all of the sort of major stuff happens at the end. But I would say that it feels more egregious here, I suppose, because it just, I don't know, this left me feeling disappointed as well, much more so than I mean, I enjoyed Arundel. I know I'm relatively alone in that viewpoint, but I was a lot more frustrated with the Caribbean than I was with Arundel. And I would say that while the world itself has some fun elements in it, the whole ship thing's quite cool. The ship combat's quite fun when it's not being cheap. I think sort of everything else about the world, other than its visuals, is just a bit disappointing. Like, I mean, the fact that I cringe every time Elizabeth speaks says volumes. Because it does make quite a few of these cutscenes somewhat unbearable for me to listen to. I mean, part of it is just like, for the love of God, do not allow American actors to do an English accent unless they can actually do an English accent. Because they do an awful job at it, generally. There are some that can do a decent English accent that doesn't sound incredibly forced and awful. I mean, most of the times you get them trying to replicate the Queen's English. It's like, what, cheerio, my old chap. Like, you're going to have a bar. No, nobody speaks like that. Not even the Queen speaks like that. Or they sort of try the really, really bad Dick Van Dyke Cockney slang type style of oh, it's supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. It's chim chimney, chim chimney, chim chim cheree. The sweep is as lucky can be, and so on and so forth. I think the most recent English accent I've heard from an American actor was, surprisingly enough, Lin-Manuel Miranda in Mary Poppins Returns. A lot of people took the mickey out of him saying it was terrible, but actually I would say that it did not sound that bad. I have heard much worse English accents in here, actually. But it's not... I wouldn't say it's difficult to do an English accent. It's just sort of getting the syllables and pronunciations correct of things. But I would say that you tend to get English actors doing much better American accents than American actors doing English accents. So just get the English people in for this. It's going to make everyone a lot happier, and it's going to sound actually okay and normal. So yeah, so there's the fact that there's that with the whole voice acting thing that annoys me. There's the fact that, yeah, there's just absolutely no... Like, Sora, Donald and Goofy have no impact on the story whatsoever. You can say that they do. They really do not. Like, we're effectively gonna come in just right at the end of the film. And that's gonna... And then we're just gonna sort of have a final battle. That's basically all that we're going to see at the end of this world. And it's just... it's annoying. And as I said, I think that part of the reason that I have my frustrations with the Caribbean's narrative structure and all of that jazz is entirely a reaction to the way in which people have reacted to Frozen in the game. Because there's sort of that feeling of people sort of trying to give it a pass when I don't think that it necessarily deserves that pass. And maybe I am alone in that, but I think I just remember wanting to get through, well, when I got to sort of the end of this world, thinking, yeah, you've kind of just lost me. I mean, it's easily one of the most visually spectacular worlds. Do not get me wrong. This world looks stunning, and it is such a marked improvement on Port Royal in Kingdom Hearts 2. Like, there's a much more consistent, cohesive art style here. Although I think some people have complained about it being a bit too washed out, but it looks very close to the film, so I'm quite happy with the way it looks, and I think that it is one of the most visually impressive worlds. But it is just sort of disappointing, and feels really aimless, I suppose. Because what the game's expecting you to do right now is explore all the islands, level up your ship, and then go to Shipwreck Cove to fight alongside the pirates. But it doesn't really explain that to you in a way that sort of, I would say, makes a lot of sense. Because it just sort of implies it. I mean, in a way, it's very Breath of the Wild-esque, in the sense that you can go to the end as soon as you sort of let loose into the world. Just like as soon as you've left the Great Plateau in Breath of the Wild, you can go straight to the final boss if you so chose to. It'll just be a bit more difficult. But considering the rest of the game doesn't work like that, I don't think that it is as ideal. And also, even with all of the levelling up, so yeah, so they do say things like this, so we should only go in if we're prepared, otherwise we'll just get in the way. However, it doesn't give you an idea of how much you'll need to be prepared in order to go in.
Sailing the open seas is the best.
Because,
Sure is relaxing.
and actually sort of part of it is, you do get more health as you level up, but it never really feels like you do. So I'm not sure how getting all that extra health is going to do you much good in the long run. I think also they do slightly spoil you with some of the ships that you can, well, and that I ended up fighting anyway as I made my way towards where the Shipwreck Cove, because they're all really quite easy, and I was just like, oh, this is all I'm going to have to face. Then really I have no worries whatsoever about getting to the end of this. Bit of a cocky move, but still. And also, I highly doubt that most people will think, I'm going to go explore every island right now. Because just like, well, I want to go sort of continue the story, but you're just aimlessly wandering about the ocean. And there is absolutely nothing mandatory on any of these islands. I think one of the things that would have helped me appreciate this world more is if there was a specific reason for me to come to these islands, like I was trying to collect things to take with me into the final battle with help or something. Give me some MacGuffins, or give me like, we don't know where Shipwreck Cove is, we need to go collect map pieces so that we can figure it out. Stuff like that, I think, would have helped make me want to explore the Caribbean a lot more whilst I was playing through the story. Because as it stands, I was just like, I just want to finish this off and come back later to explore. I.e., you know, after I've beaten the world, because that's how I go about these things. But the game is sort of expecting you to do it the other way around. And I don't think that it provides enough incentive for that. Because most of, well, all of this map is optional. Literally, you only have to go to that first island, Port Royal, and then the final area. That's all that's mandatory here. Everything else is just there to look nice and for you to explore if you want to. I just think that it would have made much more sense if they had given me a reason to want to explore these places other than having to sort of do it out of obligation of me wanting to collect everything. I would be very interested to see what you guys think on this particular subject, because it's one that I don't think I've seen many people sit in the same area as me on. And I don't know whether that is just me being me and so on and so forth, or whether it's just something that some people just haven't thought about. I don't know. It's either that or, you know, I'm not looking in the right places to find people who are having similar thoughts. I mean, it's very likely. Because outside of Twitter and the odd slight lurk in Reset Era, I mean, I don't go there for anything of any importance. It's literally just, oh, I wonder what people are moaning about today. Every week or so, just like let's have a nosy. There's a couple of the threads that I keep an eye on because there's some sort of interesting takes on things in there, but nothing of any great importance or great interest. But yeah, I just haven't seen anybody who has thought like that, and yeah, I suppose I just want to know whether I am truly weird in that. I mean, I suspect not, because purely on the basis of probabilities. I mean, like, seriously, the amount of people that have played Kingdom Hearts 3, there has got to be other people who think in the same fashion as I do on it. But, yeah, these things happen. It's a video game. It does not matter. Nobody cares. And at the end of the day, even though I have my problems with the Caribbean, it's not to say that it is a bad world. I would still say that it is a better world than Port Royal was in Kingdom Hearts 2. I mean, in fact, I'd say everything outside of 100 Acre Wood in Kingdom Hearts 3 is a better world than quite a few of the worlds that we've explored previously in the entire franchise. I mean, like, I think that's something that actually, when we have finished off the Caribbean and we start looking around a little bit more, exploring all the islands, because we're going to be here for a while, exploring those islands, of which I said there is absolutely no need to do, but which I'm going to do anyway because I want to collect everything, and that's just the type of person that I am. Also, that's a lucky emblem if ever I saw one. Little bit malformed, but doesn't matter. So yeah, I will leave sort of the full discussion, I think, on my least favourite world in Kingdom Hearts until then, but I mean, I'm pretty sure that most people will agree that, like, Monstro is terrible. The exploration of Castle Oblivion right at the end of Chain of Memories is awful, and various other instances as well. Once again, we'll go over that when we go over that. But, yeah. Either way, we've gotten to level 4, which is basically halfway to fully levelling up the Leviathan. You can get to a grand total of level 9, I believe. So even though, you know, I wasn't intending to do any major levelling up for this, I still did a decent amount. I'm not sort of completely unprepared for this. But that did not make it any easier, and I'm pretty sure that I died at least two times in the fight that you're about to see. I can't remember exactly how many times it was, but it was definitely at least 2, if not more, for reasons that I will get into shortly.
Luxord!
You do know how to make good time. Yes, one must simply marvel at your celerity. But such compulsive behavior is eventually going to bring you nothing but sorrow.
Lost him again!
How are we gonna go after him?
First, get your sadness.
Right.
So, yes. Here we go. We have a massive ship fight. The reason that this ends up being a lot more difficult than it really needs to be is that there's one ship which has got a lot of health and it can be really, really deadly. What you want to do is go after all of the smaller ships as quickly as possible and just destroy them.
It ends here.
I think there's 2 phases to this. Yeah. So there are quite a lot of ships that will come at you throughout this. So this is the other thing that makes this a challenge. And one of the ships that is going to come out very shortly has a ridiculous amount of health.
We've got him now.
And you might think, oh no, that sounds absolutely ridiculously easy. Yeah, so did I. It's not. And that is because the actual manoeuvrability of the ship is pretty terrible, and the fact that you can't heal whilst you're on the ship. If there was a way of healing during ship combat, this would not be nearly as frustrating as it ultimately ended up being for me. Because yeah, that bit, perfectly fine. This bit, less so. And I think the other part of the reason that this bit is particularly frustrating is because these ships teleport. So they will sort of charge forward and then they'll disappear into the fog and kind of attack you from another direction, or sometimes they'll do that, or maybe I'm just thinking of a different ship. There is a ship that will do that, but yeah, this thing has a ridiculous amount of health, even if you are attacking all of its weak points.
Take this. All right.
And it's very quick. And yeah, I did not have a good time on this fight. Oh no, it does disappear when you're in the middle of attacking it, which is just like,
All right.
how is that fair? And then this happens! And it's just like, well, it's like, seriously? How was I meant to sort of get out of the way of that? What is wrong with you, game? And then because I'm at the edge of the map, I can't really move out of that. I got very annoyed during this fight. I was not a happy bunny, and it was because it just ended up being a lot more infuriating than it had any right to be, because it's like seriously, what the hell was I meant to do? I mean, I suppose I could have waterwalled it, but thankfully sort of that did him in, and it means we get Warturga. But as I said, was not happy during that fight. I do think the lack of being able to heal during ship combat was a terrible idea,
Plotting to swipe the chest in the heat of
and
battle.
just makes it not as fun as it should be.
Fast.
But hey, we finally now can go to Shipwreck Cove for the final battle. But first I'm definitely going to save, because, you know, that fight was awful and I hated it. And also it did just make me go, oh, for the love of God, I don't like ship combat anymore. I disliked it less after, you know, I'd spent more time with it, but it's, yeah, that particular fight really, really did sour me on the whole ship thing, and further soured me on the world, because that was the first time that I had died properly, like seeing the game over screen, and it really didn't feel earned to me. Like, I know that's sort of very much blaming the game for my own failings, but I don't think that there is enough flexibility in the ship combat in terms of a proper skill ceiling to make that make sense. Like, I feel that either it should have been an easier fight, considering you can't heal, or it should have given you the ability to heal and then leave it at that difficulty, because it's not balanced well enough to me. But hey, that is enough moaning for one part, I think. got out most of my frustrations with the Caribbean there. Next time, a little bit more of that will appear, because we have more of Elizabeth talking in one of the worst acted speeches in the game. But everything that we're going to see in the next part is quite epic, so I really won't be complaining too much. So it should be a lot more fun. God, I was a grumpy Gus today.